The polis is the basis of life in ancient Greece. Polis is a city-state in ancient Greece, and it's the basic political unit of Hellenic or Greek civilization. Each polis developed its own pattern of life, but they also shared some features with other city-states in ancient Greece. The typical polis basically included a city, the surrounding villages, fields, and orchards. In the center of each polis was a fortified or protected hill, and this hill was known as the Acropolis. On the Acropolis in each polis there would be a temple for the local god, and at the foot of the Acropolis, so at the bottom of the hill, was the Agora, and the Agora was the public square. Many of the important activities in each city-state took place in the Agora. Citizens, which were people who were allowed to take part in government, they would meet in the Agora and carry out public affairs, choose their officials, and pass laws. Citizens could vote, hold office, own property, and speak for themselves in court. In exchange for these rights, citizens were expected to serve in government and defend the polis, or city-state, in times of war. It's important to know that not everyone was granted citizenship. It's not the same as in the U.S. today, where if you're born here, then you're allowed to be a citizen. Not everyone in the polis had political rights, and we're going to learn more about that specifically when we learn about different city-states. Another thing to know about the Agora was that artisans and merchants often did business there. As you know from today's lesson, only about 1/4 of all land in ancient Greece could be used for farming. Because of this, by 700 BC, Greek farmers were not growing enough grain to feed the growing population. So, each polis sent groups of people to create colonies in coastal areas along the Mediterranean and Black Seas. The reason for doing this was that the people in Greece wanted to find new farmland so they could grow more food. Each colony kept close ties with its parent city back in mainland Greece, and they referred to the parent city as their metropolis. And each colony was responsible for supplying their metropolis with grain, mostly wheat and barley. When city-states had colonies growing grain for them, it changed a lot about how the economy of each city-state worked. Farmers in ancient Greece didn't need to grow grain anymore, so instead they focused on growing grapes for wine, olives for olive oil, and other expensive crops for export. Because grapes and olives required less labor, many farmers moved to the cities to learn crafts and special skills, creating goods that were sold throughout the Mediterranean region. With this increase in trade, in the 600s BC, most Greek city-states switched to a money-based economy instead of a trade or barter-based economy. The governments of these city-states then took over the creation of money. It's important to take note of some of the political and social changes that happened in Greece during this time. For one, farmers began to demand increased political rights from kings or nobles, people in power. The farmers wanted a voice in government, and when the kings and nobles weren't giving in, the farmers became very unhappy and started causing a lot of unrest. This unrest led to the creation of tyrannies. And tyrannies are a form of government when one man, called a tyrant, seized power and ruled a polis single-handedly. Now, most city-states in ancient Greece were ruled by tyranny until about 500 BC. Today, we still use the word tyranny. We use it to mean someone who's a cruel or unjust person who's ruling or who has power. However, those tyrannies did not last for long. Starting in around 500 BC until the fall of ancient Greece around 336 BC, most city-states were ruled by either an oligarchy-style government or a democracy-style government. These are two vocab words that you need to know, and they're both types of government. An oligarchy is a government that's run by a few wealthy people working together, and a democracy you might be more familiar with. It's government by the people where power is shared with all citizens. But remember, in ancient Greece, not every individual was automatically a citizen just for living somewhere. And we're going to learn more about that tomorrow.